Hello everyone, Mrhappy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mrhappy, aka Mrhappy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. Sorry if I'm a little discombobulated in this episode. I got my first sleep in the last weekend that I've got. I think I must have slept at least 11 or 12 hours straight. I don't know, what time is it anyway? I don't even know what time it is. I just woke up, rolled, okay, yeah, so it's about a little bit under 12 hours pretty much. So I'm recording this Monday morning, something I haven't done very often in the past, but regardless of that, I just want to say it was an amazing weekend. Friday, we got to play Guild Wars 2 Heart of Thorns, 17 hours straight. You can kind of already tell where my sleep went. I only got 4 hours of sleep that night. I took a 4-hour nap, went live with it again at like 12:30 for a scheduled slot with ArenaNet. Then went back to bed at like 2:30, then woke up at 9 to get ready for my stream at 10, which I then had meetings for afterwards, and then I had to wake up early for the live letter the next morning, and I didn't get to sleep till like, I don't even know what time last night, but I slept like a rock. So it was a great weekend. We had a lot of great new subs come in, some really good giveaways. Gave away some gems for Guild Wars 2. Gave away some minions from Guild Wars 2, or some miniatures as they're called. Gave away some other in-game items, some EXP boosts. And also I can't remember, I gave away a bunch of stuff, and a lot of people came by, and it was a fun weekend. I'm looking forward to this next weekend where we have the closed beta for Blade and Soul. We have more Guild Wars 2 Heart of Thorns this week, so if you're still on the fence about it, I highly recommend you come by the stream. We've had a lot of great stream activity lately. We're working on some things behind the scene, Mel and I, and we just really want all of you to be a part of it. So many of you have shown so much great support over you know, me trying other games. Obviously 14's my love. I'm never going to give it up, never going to let you down. But I really have always missed so many other games, and people ask me, are you going to try this? You're going to try that? And I'm like, well, now I can say, yeah, I get to try it. And it's like this evolution of my YouTube channel, of my Twitch stream, that I want to share with you all. So hopefully you guys are willing to come by the stream. Hopefully you guys enjoy the new videos that we're going to be posting for some other games as well as Final Fantasy 14. Don't worry, still looking forward to patch 3.1 on November 10th, but that's a video in itself. If you missed the live letter for patch 3.1 for the live letter 25, I recommend you check the description of the video. There will be a link there, or I can add like a little annotation, but knowing me, I'll probably forget. Hopefully I don't forget. Right here, Happy, right here, add an annotation that says live letter 25 recap or something like that. But anyway, let's get into the questions. It's Monday morning and I have a stream in a couple of hours, so need to get this done and posted. Let's go. All right, first question. Hello, Mr. Hap. Got 2 questions for week 63. So have some airship parts. I'll forward those over to my free company members. I'm sure they still need something. Question 1. Does Mel play Final Fantasy 14, or what games does she play? Well, she's not really big into 14. She's played it in the past to support me, you know, because it's my interest and it's something that she, you know, likes to occasionally share. But she was an RO player growing up. She played some other games, but RO is the one that, you know, she always refers to back the most. And I know then the immediate next question is, are you going to try out Tree of Savior? I didn't sign up for the early beta for Tree of Savior. I have a feeling that when it comes down to it, she'll probably play it. But I don't know about any other games. Not really. She's too busy for games nowadays, you know. And you know what, honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that I played video games for a living, I'd be too busy for video games. So it's that's just where it stands. And question 2, what kind of buff do you see Paladin getting? So they're going to be getting a TP buff. I know this question was asked before that was clear. Ninja and Paladin are both seeing TP adjustments in 3.1. So that doesn't sound big to a lot of people, but Paladin and Dark Knight ran out of TP. Even with the Dark Knight adjustment, now they're just kind of even with Paladin. Giving them more TP to play with is an indirect buff if they're able to last in the fight longer, be able to maintain their DPS longer than a Dark Knight is, without the need for extra goads or extra peons or anything like that. However, of course, there's the changes people want to see, you know, clemency not being interrupted by auto attacks, the ability to switch stances without breaking your combo at the very least, even if you're not going to make them instant and off the global cooldown, at least make it so it doesn't break your combo. And then there's a few other things, like things that they could do with blocking, things they could do with Sheltron, but that's the only one they've mentioned. I think the Clemency one is one of the more mandatory ones. I would also like to see Sword Oath get buffed by like 25 potency, and that's all I really see for the Paladin. I think it's more about them designing fights that Paladin is efficient in than it is just about buffing the Paladin. So that's where I stand on those, and you have a nice day as well, my friend. Next question. Yo, Hap, third striker. Wrong game. Wait, you mean Street Fighter? I had a friend who's obsessed with Street Fighter. Ask her. So, have the fastest roulette runs of your life, and I would stay on Final Fantasy XIV 1 for this question. How do you feel about a completely bug-fixed and enjoyable offline version of Final Fantasy XIV 1? You mean 1.0? Oh, you mean 1. When you said Final Fantasy XIV 1, I was like, what the heck does he mean by that? To experience the story and how you would experience the story on a playable way, at least for free, would be beneficial. I think it would be an awesome veteran reward. I don't want to ever suffer. But bug fixing is not what the issue was. It wasn't bugs that made 1.0 a bad game. The story was one of the only redeeming factors of that game. What made it bad was the fact that it was unoptimized, laggy, ran like crap, required the monolith from 2001's A Space Odyssey in order to run, and was just generally, like, it had some good ideas, but on the system that they were built on top of, didn't work out. When you say enjoyable offline version, I almost would rather play like an 18-bit, I almost said 6-bit instead of, and then I said 6 into 18, see, that's how tired I am. A 16-bit single-player version of 1.0 would be more enjoyable for me than a bug-fixed and quote-unquote enjoyable version of an offline 1.0. I think it's okay, the idea to experience a story, but, I mean, they kind of did a decent job of explaining it back in A Realm Reborn, so I don't really think it's necessary either. Next question. Good morning, Mr. Happy. Thank you for answering my question from last week. No problem. Here's another serious, debatable question I would like your thoughts concerning on. So in my Link Shell Free Company and the official forum for 14, there seemed to be a split on players who want tanks to tank, healers just to heal, and DPS to DPS. Change all healer attack spells to healing spells and tank attacks to generate enmity but do no damage. Okay, that's ridiculous. Okay, it's one thing to think to themselves like, well, I just want I want to be a tank, so therefore I don't want to be responsible for needing to deal extra damage. But to literally say have tank attacks deal no damage and to turn every healing, how are you gonna level? How are you gonna level if your attacks deal no damage and you're healing and all? First of all, why would you need that many healing spells? Like, what do you realistically need that many healing spells for? And then that homogenizes things even more, because then everyone just has this plethora of healing spells they don't need. That would turn Scholar into a heal over time healer, because they would have all the dots and they would become HOTS. Oh, man. No. Not the way you're presenting it to me here. I think there's a place for a tank to worry more about tanking than DPS, and a place for healers to worry more about healing. And I think that maybe they might move a little bit in that direction in 3.2. That being said, in the way the game currently is, if you're talking about efficiency in raids, tanks need to step out of their comfort zone in order to find more DPS. They even gave most of them more DPS tools in the expansion. Royal Authority being a pure DPS option for the Paladin, Deliverance being the pure DPS option, the entire basically 52 to 60 experience for Warrior turning them into a DPS, and Dark Knight oddly not having a real DPS stance, just not having their tank stance on, enabling their other ability, the Blood Weapon. So, and then healers, it's like, I can understand, they give you cleric stance. They very clearly wanted to make that for leveling first, and then at level, max level, it was like, maybe they'll use this a little bit. But the way it currently is, you gotta do more than one of those things if you want to be a serious raider. If you're casually playing the game in a dungeon and someone's giving you shit for it, it's like, whatever, dude, it's gonna take 2 minutes longer, like, whatever. But at the same time, it's like, if you are like, I am going to be a savage raider, I want to be on the hardcore cutting edge, but fuck that, I don't want to do extra DPS, then you're just lying to yourself. It just doesn't work that way. If you're not, because the thing is, if you have that mentality with just your role, how far that mentality goes is completely, not, it's hard to tell with your raid group. It's like, I'm not willing to go the extra mile to perform a duty. For some people, it's just like, oh, I wish I didn't have to do it, and that's fine. I have a really mixed bag of emotions with it, basically, and I could spend an entire video talking about it. In fact, I did do an entire video talking about it. Why am I answering this? I could have just said I did a video. Either way, not to the degree that which you say tanks attacks generate enmity but do no damage. No. Hell no. No. Tracy Morgan, thank you for the inspiration. I refuse. No. Let's move on to the next question. All right, next question. A rather serious question discussion, so I will skip the formalities. This man means business. A middle core raiding ninja main wishing to discuss some DPS details regarding off GCD sync and buff alignment. Specifics in spoiler. All right, well, let's see. We got the spoiler down here. Let me just... Oh, no, 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 no. Good thing you gave me a TLDR version, because I ain't gonna I don't have time for all that. Oh, man. TLDR, our second trick attack, the one after the opener, doesn't line up with the ninjutsu cast due to reasons explained in the spoiler. Well, I mean, I know what that reason is. Delay the trick attack or hold on to the ninjutsu. And how to align blood for blood with burst sections of the fight. A lot of this question comes down to every individual fight is different, and some have better openers for them than other ones do. For example, the Shasta opener where you Suiton pre-pull and then you Kasatsu early on, that has a little bit better alignment when it comes to certain fights that have prolonged opening sections, whereas the opener where I use it, for example, works really well on A4. Because you'll have your blood for blood, your internal release, your trick attack, and your Kasatsu all line up with one another. And it also depends on where you want to be allocating DPS. Do you need trick attack for a certain part of the fight? A lot of this comes down to individual fights, because the reason why trick attack doesn't line up with the ninjutsu cast is for multiple reasons. For one, if you're doing the opener that I use, Kasatsu, you have to wait on Kasatsu to reload it, which is why I cram them into the same off GCD now, even when I'm not having good latency. If you do have good latency, they fit together pretty smoothly, but otherwise they don't. And then you have a potential, most likely a Raiton, because if you're running with a Bard, you're going to Raiton there, or a Fuma. Regardless, you have that delay of the GCD, the 0.5 seconds after the GCD, the Mudra, the 0.5 seconds after the Mudra, and the activation of the ninjutsu. You're going to have desync issues. The thing is, a lot of fights tend to have breaks in them that allow your trick attack and your ninjutsus to line up again. Not every fight does, and for that, a lot of this just comes down to feeling out individual fights. There is no one solid answer. Except, so the main question is delay the trick attack or hold on to the ninjutsu. I guess that depends on how much time you have left, because you don't want to sit on a ninjutsu cast and just not use it for 10 seconds because you're waiting on trick attack, because that's 10 seconds of non-ninjutsu time that you could have spent, that if you do that over and over again will add up at the end of the fight. If it's like 3 seconds, I'll usually just prepare the Suiton, or like 3 to 5 seconds. I know that it's going to take me 2 or 3 of those seconds to get the Suiton, and then I know that I have another GCD there, so then I'll just Suiton. I'll hit the Suiton, I'll hit the trick attack as soon as it becomes available. But a lot of it comes down to individual fights, and it takes some feeling out. This is something I, again, could make a whole video about, because it, like you're saying here, it's I guess a theory crafting question. It's something that's really hard to answer concisely in such a short time without using exact examples. How to align blood for blood with burst sections of the fight? Again, it takes some feeling out, because blood for blood is a bit shaky with a lot of middlecore groups. A lot of middlecore groups have a lot of deaths to healers not knowing blood for blood timing with the DPS. So if anything, I'd worry less about aligning it with burst sections of the fight and more about communicating when those sections are to your healers, so they are aware. People will be using blood for blood here. There will be extra damage on the raid. That's something a lot of middlecore raiders don't do, and hell, even some hardcore raiders don't do it. You know, it needs to be communicated, and you'll feel that out with the rest of the fight. It's usually there in your opener. The burst sections don't usually come for at least another 2 to 3 minutes into the fight. So just feel it out, determine how long you have to hold on to it. Is you holding on to it for X amount of time going to cost you a blood for blood at the end of the fight, etc., etc. There's a lot of little things that go into it. But thank you for your question. It's a good one that I should probably touch on in a future video. Next question. Hello, Mr. Happy. Hope you're having a nice Monday. Well, I just woke up, so I don't know yet, but I think I will. My question is, what do you think the questions we ask should be like? Is it middle, long, short, and is there any type of questions you hate to answer or so? Thank you for your time and have a nice Monday. A question about asking questions. I guess that's fair. So, what do you think the questions we ask should be like? I guess if you're going to write a long one, add a TLDR at the top. That's probably the best thing to do, like the guy before you did. Because it means that even if I want to read the whole question for context, I don't have to read the whole question for the video. Also, what types of questions I hate to answer? I guess the only questions I don't like to answer are ones that I literally have answered in the past, like, several weeks, and they're being asked again. Also, if I see, like, multiple, what would you change about, like, for example, paladin, there's a few of those in this one, I usually will just answer it once. So, I'm not saying don't ask them because you think someone else might, but keep that in mind that if I skip that, it's probably because I already answered it in some way, shape, or form somewhere else. The short questions are the best because I can get through them very quickly, and the middle questions are a bit shaky. I try to have a few of those in there, but you're not guaranteed to get that kind of question answered. So hopefully that's some decent insight. Thank you for your question. Next question. Hey, Happy. Revised question. Ooh. Do you think that 14 could add an upgradable jobstone that might increase the power of job skills and spells? I keep seeing the jobstones have item levels. I noticed that too. And I've always wondered if it would ever upgrade and there would be different jobstones that boost other things. I think the only reason a jobstone has an item level is to indicate you get it at level 30. Or, well, yeah, because it's item level 30, so level 30. Not always side by side in that regard, but it's not the worst idea. It depends on if they could, what they would do that for. Like, is that something that they would, you know, shoehorn into the jobstone quest itself? Like the job quest, like, oh, you know, you unlock the next ability, your jobstone also got more powerful. Or is that something that they would make like an optional side upgrade? Because let's be honest, if it was an optional side upgrade, it would be a mandatory side upgrade. You know what I mean? It's something that the system seems it's already there. It very clearly has latent stats that, you know, it buffs your stats by a certain amount going from a class to a job. So who's to say that they couldn't do it? You know, I'm for it. Whatever. It just has to be implemented well. Next question. Hey, Mr. Happy, have a barding of your choice. I have all the bardings I could ever need. But there are some ones. I'll take the... I don't even know what bardings there are anymore. I'll take the Bismarck one. I don't have that. Do you think Square Enix is trying to ignore the no duty finder with a Chocobo complaint? You know, they spoke about that 2 live letters ago, I think, and they said they had something, like they figured out what they needed to do to fix it. But I haven't heard about it since. So nobody's been asking about it since. I hope that they mention it again, because I would like to take my Chocobo into the actual instance. And I know they were talking about the, like, Grand Company mercenary thing where you can go into instances with NPCs and, like, level them up and whatnot. So can we do that with our Chocobos, please? Please? Thank you. As an Astro doing Astro solo videos, I would love to have my Chocobo in there, even if he dies quick, just to use some cooldowns on occasion. Just saying. And 2, why are the adders so bad at PvP? That is not true. I was part of a... When I PvP'd a bit more, I was part of an adders premade group, and we wrecked shit. It's just that in the duty finder, a lot of people tend to join randomly. Like, if you join on a Tuesday, for example, it's always going to feel like your team is losing unless you're joining groups of premates. It almost feels that way. When I was on Flames, Flames just lost because I wasn't joining premates. When I was on adders just lost because wasn't running premade. As soon as we ran a premade, it was a stomp fest because you just destroy the other people. It's not so much that adders are bad at PvP. It depends on your data center, the Grand Company population on that data center, and how much people are willing to work with each other. I don't. Maybe your data center adders are awful, but whenever I say on Ether adders are terrible, someone says, I don't know, every time Flames lose, or dude, the Maelstroms suck. Everyone just says the same thing. So I don't know. Just twin batters? I'm still a twin batter. Next question. Hey, Happy, from what you've seen, have the specialties had a real effect on crafting? No. It's still better to level multiple crafters in order to be efficient on at least one of them. They are adding, I believe they said they're adding special recipes for these specializations, so it should have more impact in the future. And do you think Square may go in a direction of a controller role for that 4th role they've been looking to include? On that, how do you feel about the controller role? One that specializes in CC and using buffs, debuffs, useless in this game. They would have to be able to fulfill some other role. You can't literally have someone there that's only focused on CC without constantly giving them something to CC. So, I'm not a fan of the idea. I still think the quasi-hybrid support kind of deal, you know, like I'm a healer supporter, I'm a DPS supporter, a tank supporter, something along those lines. And adding mechanics to fights that have that need for that one hybrid. The problem then becomes, like, what hybrid do you need? Like, and then you need to implement, like, 4 jobs at the same time, which is why I really think we're going to get skill trees when they decide to add another role. If they decide to add another role. Maybe that ship has sailed. Maybe that's no longer something they're wasting development time on. But we don't know for sure yet. We'll see what they do in the future. But the controller role, nah. Not unless, even if they made fights for that, that seems like, I don't know, kind of, it's too specialized. It's too specialized. All right, this one is really, really long. So I read the first few lines, so I'll just read those and answer the question. So, hey, Happy, what are your thoughts on adding an in-game plugin that monitors your DPS or the end screen of a PvP match showing damage done, healing done? Don't they already have that, though? Or the end screen of a PvP... Yeah, wait, the end screen of a PvP match already has damage done, healing done. I don't understand. As it stands, tanks can be kicked if they're not using cooldowns or pulling enough threat, and healers can be kicked if people start dying or they're really inefficient with their mana via overhealing, needing constant MP songs. With this in mind, DPS players are an exclusive camp where they are immune to the threat of being replaced by someone else in content if they do not pull their own weight simply by asking, how do you know my DPS? And reporting to the player that responds with ACT data. You think they're immune. They're just going to get kicked. They won't even tell them your DPS isn't enough. And if it's in a serious raid content, if that person's willing to go to that level, they very clearly didn't care about their DPS in the first place, and they're probably going to get kicked. They're probably going to get kicked anyway. So, like, you would never have someone in Savage who goes, somebody says, dude, you know, you really need to bring your DPS. It's like, how do you know my DPS? Get kicked from the game. No, they would just be like, dude, your DPS isn't good enough. They wouldn't even say anything, and then the guy's like, how do you know? It's just like, we don't even need to say anything. Your DPS isn't good enough. And also, tanks get I said beat. Tanks get kicked from dungeons for trying to DPS, and healers get kicked from dungeons because they're trying to DPS. I've seen it before, where a healer gets kicked. It's like, healer, stop DPSing. That's not your role. Are we all alive? Yeah? Then shut the hell up. When you die, then you're allowed to complain, and that's when I make an adjustment. Until then, shut the hell up. You're alive. I'm DPSing. We're good. Just because you're not at max health all the time doesn't mean I'm not a bad healer. So there's lots of things that can get you kicked. I mean, I would like a built-in something in the game to tell DPS, because I like to avoid using ACT, because, you know, they say, oh, it's not allowed. You know, I'm supposed to be running something respectable here. I would like something official at some point. Please, Square Enix. Just, I don't care. Anything. And not for the use of, you know, telling someone they're, just so I have the exclusive right to boot somebody if their DPS isn't good enough. No, so I can improve my own. If anything, just like a personal DPS meter that doesn't read everyone else's, even though that would stop people from using ACT. Alright, next question. Sup, bro? 2 questions for this week. I saw who it was, so it's a good thing. I'm skipping question number 1. Question number 2, potions, man, they are such a pain in the arse to use. Why can't they just be like an off-global cooldown that you can queue up during a GCD? I know it's an item and not an off-GCD skill, but I don't really see the point of having such a clunky thing inside of a fluent game. I literally have to spam them for an entire second before they go off. So some of that is latency. A lot of that is, you know, there's a 0.5 second delay after the end of a skill where you can't use it, since it can't be queued up. There's also the however long of latency you have before the game registers your button press. So that's usually why it usually clips. So I love those moments, even as a ninja, where it works, it's fluid, and it's like, oh my god, I didn't clip a GCD. It's a great feeling when it happens. I don't know why they take so long to use. I can't even begin to explain why they take so long to use. But I do agree with you. I wish they didn't take as long to use. So Square Enix, make potions not as long to use. Next question. Hello, Mr. Happy. Repost for week 62, another of my favorite lore questions. Do you think that Ala Mhigo will turn out to be something similar to the Hinterlands, Sharlayan? A place where there's a non-functional city-state with world enemies all over the place, or will really become a city-state like any other? Ala Mhigo is occupied by the Garleans right now, so it's probably fully functional. It's probably just full of Garleans right now, so if anything, that's what I expect out of it. It's just, I don't imagine they just abandoned the city-state after occupying it. It's almost definitely like, it's like if they occupied Ul'dah and said, no, never mind, you know? Like, I don't see that happening. So, it's probably taken over by Garleans, and we're going to have to take it back at some point. So, that's what I expect to happen to Ala Mhigo. Alright, next question. Hey, Mr. Happy, I know we had a debate about this last week, but do you think that locking gating content behind another content is fair or unfair if it's used to lock out the players who aren't supposed to be in that content to begin with? Oof. Your reasoning. In WoW, I felt a sense of accomplishment as I attuned to raid. I don't want to ever talk about vanilla attunement, please. Earning the privilege to run the content you want. The we wants ruin MMOs, which means people who say, it's in the game, I pay myself free, so I have the right to run the raids, so please, game developer, nerfer the content. Nerfer. So I can get my full value out of the sub fee. Alright. The feeling of the game world being big and seeing yourself in, like, the normal story mode Alexander gear, with, well, some players being in the best gear at the current time, makes me feel like the game world is as large, not if large, than the... Okay. Anyway, so I'm just going to answer the question. Attunements. Are they good or are they bad? They're good in moderation. For example, I feel like the attunement to the original coil, with Titan hard mode being the final, you know, like you have to beat, you know, Ifrit, Garuda, Titan. That was two-pronged, though, because it was like, this was your relic weapon, and it was your attunement to the binding coil of Bahamut. I felt like that was acceptable, because those were just 3 pieces of content that you had to do in order to get into it. 3 linear pieces of content that you had to do in order to get into it. It was a very clear quest chain. And then, of course, beating coil 5 to get into the second coil, beating coil 9 to get into the third coil. Those were okay to me. The kind of attunements I don't want to see, lots of reputation grinding, lots of doing this dungeon over and over again in order to get into the raid, lots of, you know, just killing monsters for hours and hours on end to get into raids. If you're gonna do an attunement, make it an actual stepping stone. Don't make it a, here's the first step, which has all this bullshit that you don't care about or that you don't want to grind out, versus an actual fight that's testing your skill. I'd rather have one actual fight that ensures that you are learning how to play as you're stepping up, than a bunch of shit that's completely irrelevant and it's just there to grind you out. So that to me is, as I said, earning the privilege to run the content you want. And I guess I can kind of see where you're going, because Alexander's story was in no way a meaningful way of gauging a player's skill going into Alexander Savage. So a lot of people hit a wall, and they hit it hard, really, really, really hard. So I can understand it to some degree, as long as you mean the attunements that aren't crazy grindy like the vanilla WoW attunements, then I'm somewhat okay with it. I do feel that this whole "we wants," there's only so much that they actually mean when they say "we want." If anything, we all want something out of an MMO. Every single person who plays an MMO is a "we want," because we want something in the MMO. It's not like we don't want things in the MMO. There's no "we don't wants," you know. And I know that you very specifically mean this type of person who wants the content to get nerfed so that they can enjoy it. I'm someone who, if it's past its relevancy in the game, I don't care if it's nerfed. It's not relevant to me anymore. Sure, it's like, oh man, I remember doing that when it was hard, but it's like, okay, fucking fantastic, right? Like, who cares? You beat it when it was hard. Good for you. You know, like, if that's something you're happy about, then you're happy about it. Okay, we enjoy this now. It's just it depends. There's different kinds of, you know, nerfs, good nerfs, bad nerfs. There's taking information from a large group of people or listening to a small group of people. It doesn't matter. No matter what, everyone's we want in an MMO, because we all want things. Every friggin' Monday with Mr. Happy, I say I want something. So I'm an I want, I suppose. Overall, just, I don't know. I don't think not supposed to be running the content to begin with is sort of a harsh way to put it. But at least something that adequately prepares you for the content you're about to go into, I feel, is an acceptable type of attunement. Next question. Hey, Happy, longtime lurker, and I have another non-14 related question. With the recent release of the Taken King Destiny expansion, and the good reception the expansion has received, have you considered going back to playing the game? Or is 14 just taking up too much of your current time? Oh, it has nothing to do with 14. It has absolutely nothing to do with 14, while you have not seen me in the Taken King after I showed some interest in the initial Destiny launch. The Taken King is me paying $60 to play the game I should have had in my pocket a year ago, or whatever it is, $40, because I own the original version. It's me paying $40 to play the game that I should have had access to a year ago, not me paying $40 to, you know, for a new game. You know what I mean? Like, it's great that it fixed some of the issues. It still has some issues. It still has almost no meaningful content. It still is an utterly ridiculously short campaign for the price that it's being charged at, and it still relies heavily on gating you behind loot, and that's kind of the only thing that it has going for it. And it doesn't, and I still don't feel like it does that in an adequate way, because now it hands it to you at a decent enough rate without giving you enough choices. Like, there's still a meta in the game. It doesn't feel, I don't know, I have a lot of feelings about Destiny and the Taken King. It's something I've honestly considered getting back into, because I'm like, okay, it's definitely an improvement, but I'm not gonna pay $40 for the game I should have had on my PS4 when it came out a year ago. I refuse to invest that kind of money. That's just me talking with my wallet. I don't care what it's improved, because it's honestly where it should have been in the first place, and I want the original $60 I paid in value first before I invest in this. Also, it comes with these 2 little DLCs that I've heard have slightly better stories. I've heard House of Wolves has a slightly better story. I've heard the one before it still does not do a whole lot for the game, but I don't, like, I'm not going to play those, so it's like, because they're irrelevant now in the game, unless you have to play them, which you probably do. But they're just irrelevant. And then you're going to talk about content being made irrelevant in 14, man. Destiny takes it to the next level. I just don't want to invest any time into the game. I refuse to spend the money on the game, pretty much. That's it. Next question. Hey, Happy. Soldiery bonus here. My question is, what do you do if you mained warrior and your group never let you have any slaying drops or even non-best in slot tank accessories or any A2 savage gear? What the hell is your group doing? They choose to give both to the paladin. What the hell? Give that shit to the warrior. Is it true? Is it better to gear the off tank up last or everyone according? As I look for another group, we're currently stuck in A3 savage. I'm worried that I'll get squashed in A4 savage because my gear is so low. Thank the Lord that those goddamn books exist. Thanks for the reply, Happy. Warrior is like the first tank job you should be giving slaying accessories to. Granted, if you have people who are trying to get slaying accessories for their DPS job that has strength as a main stat, yes, they kind of should get it first. But like, what are they gearing up? Like, what does the paladin need? Are you guys missing DPS? Because putting that shit on the warrior would probably be a better investment. Granted, they could be treating you like, oh, you should just go get the pentamelded stuff because, you know, that's what the best people use. I don't care if you don't have money, go make some money, you know, whatever. Or they could just give you some slaying accessories. You can run, you know, 3 strength, 2 vit or something along those lines. The fact that I don't like that you say no gear at all. Like, even if it's non-best in slot tank accessories, like, they need to give you something. Like, they can't just not give you any loot. You need to be giving loot out where it's meaningful. Now, if it's not best in slot and it's best in slot for him, go right ahead. Slaying drops, if it's not the if it's going to the DPS who need it first, fine. I don't know if that's what you mean by this, or any A2 savage gear, which is very strange to me. I don't know. It's just strange to me that they're not giving you any loot, feeding you any loot, when feeding a warrior loot is awesome. So I guess I don't know enough about the situation to say it for certain. I have a feeling your gear is maybe not as low, or maybe you guys haven't cleared enough weeks in a row for it to really come to fruition. It's just been some drops that you're definitely interested in, but it's only been a few weeks. I don't know. I need more information. But if it's been like 8 weeks and they ain't giving you shit, man, I'd be upset. Just saying. All right, next question. Repost from week 62. Greetings, Haps. First time asking, so here's a materia of your choice. I recently had an idea regarding support roles in 14, but I don't know if it would be a good idea or even possible to implement. Instead of just increasing the party size to 5, allow a support role to join. Perhaps they can make it so that you can still run a dungeon with 4 people, but if a support role is in queue, he or she would join, making it a 5-man party. Maybe put some sort of timer on it before the dungeon pops, so if there's no supports in queue, the dungeon pops 2 minutes after. Oh, there would always be supports in queue. If they have their own slot that is, you know, people that every single party, actually that's like a tank or a healer. It's like a third option for tank and healing queues. Like, oh, nobody plays support, so I'll queue as that. That way it should be possible for people to run the dungeons if there's a lack of support. At the same time, people who want to play support can still run dungeons for EXP and loot. If they make sure the content is doable without a support, but simply easier with a support, or harder, whichever works, it shouldn't upset the balance a whole lot. Hope you understood my poor explanation. So the question is pretty simple. What do you think of the idea? If you have any ideas to improve it? You need consistency. First of all, if you're going to release a support role, you then need to release multiple support jobs at the same time. At least 2, if not more. Because you're adding a new role, you need jobs to fulfill that role, first and foremost. Second of all, then how does the support work into raiding? Because you can't have like 2 slots open for your raid, like, oh, maybe we'll bring a support. Because no, like, then what's the draw in bringing a support if there's content that is, you know, for example, if content's harder with the support, I know you gave that as kind of a side example. Why would we bring a support? Obviously, it's cool to have all those extra abilities, but no one's going to do that. Everyone takes the path of least resistance. And if the content's doable without the support, then why do we need the support in the first place? And why does the support have to be factored into the balancing of the content? Just think of it this way. There's no role that isn't used in the game. In fact, I don't know if in any game there's a role that isn't used or is considered doable without. There's individual jobs, there's, you know, crafting, but there's never been an entire role that they've been like, well, we could design content around not bringing that role, and we can also make it so that it's different when you do bring that role. I don't know, it doesn't seem like a good enough way to get people in the door with support. I think I'd rather just see the increase to the party size of 5 than this implementation. Next question. Hi, Mr. Happy. Long-time viewer, first-time asker. I have an SO bonus and an SO upgrade item. I have 3 quick questions. All right, let's see. Since I like to study and learn a lot from 14, I looked everywhere for advanced ninja guides. I also noticed every week you have Ninja 3.0 related questions. Is there a possibility in the future you can make one? I have 2 old guides that are still mostly relevant. I have one from patch 2.45 and one of my 3.0 impressions, which honestly almost functions as a guide. Now that we have stat weights, I have considered doing another full-blown guide. I want to see what the ninja TP adjustments are in patch 3.1 though, before I do something definitive. Two, you can cap multiple characters with SO weekly items. Insert your actual currency here. Same account. You mean like let's say if I have two characters on the on my account, and yeah, they both have their own SO caps, their own weekly caps. There's no account bound caps other than how many characters you can make on a server. So yeah, you can do that. And three, link to the first question: how much skill speed is good on Ninja? Is there a way to go below 0? Like, can I trade my skill speed? Like, what is it? Like 3 something for the base? Like, can I just like trade it? It's arguable where their tiers lie. I mean, they very clearly have tiers of skill speed where they can get an extra GCD or something during trick attack, or it ensures security within trick attack. I don't know what the exact one is, though. There's a certain minimum skill speed you usually want to ensure that even with any latency you may get with your Mudras, because the inconsistency of the internet, that you, or you could just use what the fast, or you could just use that, that you will guarantee that all 5 of your GCDs, all 5 of the important ones, hit within your trick attack window. I don't know what that exact number is, but honestly, don't aim for high skill speed. Usually, if you're hovering around the 2-second GCD mark, you're doing all right. Any less, most people won't notice. Any more, people will notice because your TP will go down. So don't stress skill speed so much on Ninja. Just whatever happens to be on your gear, let it happen, and try to get not so much of it. Now, don't go overboard with it. Next question. Hey, Haps. 1,000 needles to you. Ow. Also, my main question. So if you didn't main Ninja, what other jobs would you main? Monk. Easily a Monk. Monk was what my main was actually supposed to be in 2.0, but in basically I only had good Bard gear from 1.0. So when I was in the Free Company Legacy, they said, yo, we need a Bard. I was like, my Bard's got this, and they were like, sure, bring it in. And then that was it. I completed the relic on it. We went into Binding Coil of Bahamut, and that was the end. That was all that was all we focused on at that point. So I just like Monk because it punches stuff, and Monk was my first ever character in Final Fantasy 11. I never got it to 75, and I regretted that. Monk was my first choice in Final Fantasy 14 1.0, or Pugilist at the time, and I never got to play it after that because by the time they were relevant, I wasn't playing 1.0 anymore. I just want to get to play Monk in one game, man. Just one game. That's why. Next question. Afternoon, Mr. Happy. I have 2 questions for you. DX12 will happen for 14. We just got DX11. Like, DX12 is way far away, dude. Not for a long time. And the new 24-man raid is worth doing if you already have 210 gear. If you want to gear alternate jobs, yeah. Or if you want to, there's probably going to be a minion in there at some point. If you want to see the story, you could probably do it. You could just at least do it once. Other than that, it's mostly for gearing alternates or getting to your best in slot list. Or, well, with the Free Company airship stuff, we'll see about best in slot list from, this point on. So it depends on what your motives are. I'm going to be using it. God, I'm sorry. I just have just all of a sudden had to burp. I was trying to hold it in. Apologies. Excuse me. So, if you already have 10 gear, yeah, I'm going to be using it to gear my alternate jobs, the ones that I'm not getting enough books on or that I'm not getting enough SOs per week on. But if you literally are like, I will play this one job, I will only play this one job, I'm full 210 gear, then it's glamour and story at that point. So, no. Next question. Hi, Mr. Happy. When is the last day we can ask a question? I've got 2 questions about asking questions. Sunday nights usually when I record. If you're lucky, you'll get a situation like this where I don't check till Monday morning. I recommend asking your questions as early on as possible, though, especially if you have one that's kind of in middle length, because, you know, as I get towards the end of my recording, I have to go, okay, this one's too long, this one's too long, this one's too long. This one's a repeat question, you know. It doesn't hurt to read the previous questions and see if your questions are like that as well. But obviously, you know, if everyone did that, then it would probably take a lot of time out of their days. So Sunday, usually Sunday evening, by about 7 p.m. is when I lock the thread. If not, Monday morning, I'll lock the thread. So usually about those times. Next question. Hey, Happy, no bonus anything because I turned my ad blocker off on your YouTube videos. Hey, thanks. And now I can't watch porn without getting bombarded by ads. Okay. So there, money bonus. For whatever reason, I can't seem to get my dots up during my trick attack window. I can only get duality, Aeolian Edge. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Do your dots before duality, Aeolian Edge, first of all. Second of all, that still means that you won't be able to get duality, Aeolian Edge. Dream Within a Dream and Raiton. Something's not right here. I have moderate Mudra lag on my Raiton clips my GCD, so I use Fuma outside of Kasatsu. Okay. So I got discouraged by this and I stopped playing. Well, okay, so here's what you should be able to get within your trick attack window. You should be able to get Shadowfang, Raiton, Mutilate. What comes after? Dream Within a Dream, Spitting Edge, Mug, Gust Slash, Duality, Aeolian Edge. The Duality Aeolian Edge could be rough if you have bad latency. That part can end up being a little bit rough. So if your latency is that bad that you're only getting Duality, Aeolian Edge, Dream Within a Dream, and Raiton, I mean, I don't know what your rotation is either. Maybe your rotation is something really off the wall that I don't recommend, but yeah. It sounds like you're trying to get to the Shadow Fang. Sounds like your Trick Attack is up before spinning, and it falls off right as you're about to apply Shadow Fang. I'm assuming that's what's happening right here. So other than that, yeah, I would do your dots before your duality. If your latency is better now, then yeah, you should be okay. In the time it would take me to get the relic quest will drop. It only takes 3 weeks, man. The relic is until 3.15, and then you're probably gonna have to spend another 2 to 3 weeks actually getting that relic. So you're at least 5-6 weeks out of a relic weapon. So yeah, get the 200 weapon, man. Definitely get the 200 weapon. Yeah, and definitely something better than a law weapon. Yeah, I'd say just get your 200 weapon, man. Don't even worry about it. You still have 5-6 weeks out. You know, that's at least 3 weeks of an I-200 weapon, especially if you're getting back into Ninja and you're planning on doing anything endgame related. Yeah, focus on getting that 200 weapon, man. Other than that, just check out a few rotations. I don't recommend doing Duality Aeolian Edge before dots, but yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Next question. Hi, Happy. First time asker, long time listener. Have an absolute virtue drop of your choice. Nurture Sash. 10 out of 10. I was wondering if you think the time between patch 2.x was short because they had a lot of leftover game assets from 1.0. No, they had to restart pretty much. The patch cycles for 3.x are not going to be 5 months from now on. They said that was only because of their vacation after Heavensward came out, on top of the fact that they're working on more unique systems in the game. After this, it's going back to its regular patch cycle, which is about 3 to 3.5 months. So I don't think that has anything to do with it. This is an anomaly when it comes to the game. I suspect that if they don't increase their staff, though, it may happen again from 3.5 to 4.1, where we had the long break between the end of the expansion and the beginning of the new one, and the beginning of the new one to the first patch. So hopefully they are sizing up their employees or their staff, because otherwise it will happen again at some point, just not from 3.1 to 3.5. Next question. Hey, Mr. Happy. First time asker, long time viewer. So my question is, wouldn't buffing Monk's mantra to give it like a 5% damage boost to everyone? Holy shit. Put them on par with Dragon's utility, or is it overkill because they already have Dragon Kick? Well, I mean, it's not so much that it's overkill because they have Dragon Kick. It's overkill because it's fucking overkill. Because mantra lasts a pretty long time, man. If anything, that would make them replace ninjas, if not for what's it called? What the hell am I trying to say? Actually, no, mantra's got a pretty long cooldown, so that's not true. Then yeah, but then they would absolutely replace Dragoon. That's not on par. They would replace Dragoon if they gave 5% damage to everyone. Everyone. That's a lot. Like, Dragoon increases the DPS of the Bard by, I forgot what people calculated out to. I think it's like 6% now. So that's one party member you're increasing by 6%, right? Monk has more personal DPS than a Dragoon in the first place, by the way, on single targets, at the very least. I believe someone said they also have higher AoE DPS, now that they got that, like, 3% buff. And then Dragoons also give Battle Litany, which is critical hit rate, but it's on a pretty long cooldown. It's like 5% damage on Mantra's cooldown is a lot, so that's not going to make them on par. They're going to flat out replace Dragoons if that was the case, and Bards will cry because their FF logs are going to be lower. It's overkill for a different reason. That's all I'll say. They deserve something, but I think it's just more, like I said, I still think the issue is more that fights aren't designed very well for Paladin, and there's a lot of stress on the DPS checks. So those two things combined make it so that A, you can just, you know, you need the highest DPS composition possible for some stuff. And when I say need, I mean in world first progression. Honestly, Monk is perfectly fucking fine right now. I don't know how many times us top tier raiders have to say it. Is it as good? No. Is it doable if you actually know how to play the game, like, properly, like everyone knows their rotations, and you're not just trying to make up for weak links all the time? You can play whatever composition you want as long as it's within reason. Don't be like playing 8 warriors. Actually, go ahead and do that because OP. But like, Monk is fine right now. It's just that when world progression comes around again, if the fights aren't designed in a certain way, Monk will then again be like, oh, well, you know, we don't need Dragon Kick because we have Dark Knight. You know, if that happens again, then the same conversation will happen. But monks do fine. they don't need a 5% damage boost to the entire party. That would be so crazy overkill. That was a good laugh. Thank you. I like that question. They could use something to make him on par in world progression, but that shit's never going to happen because there's what? Then people won't bring Drago into world progression and we'll have the same issue on the other side. So either way, we're sunk. Alright, next question had a really long spoiler again, and it was about an issue. I'll read it right here. What's the haps? I'm new to posting here, and this is my first question. I'll be honest, not entirely sure if that whole SO bonus thing is a joke or seriously. Well, you can't actually give me an SO bonus. Somebody said it like, I don't even know how long ago. One person said it, and it's rolled with ever since. Anyway, I have a question, if you wouldn't mind. You get a few of them that are quite similar, but nevertheless, I'm struggling with it right now. So, the spoiler tag right here for Hayden. I love that it says hide and not hidden. He's got a friend who plays Astro, and his friend seems to have an issue with keeping him alive whenever they play together, regardless of the rate at which he tries to play, whether he goes slower pulls, eventually even if he does slower pulls, a boss will kill him. And just having a hard time thinking about how they're gonna get to any sort of end game at all with this issue. How would you go about resolving this issue as peacefully as possible? Should I just try to be direct and tell him he needs to improve, or maybe I should just try and get him to try another healer and keep pushing for it? Honestly, if we're ever you said how we'll ever do rating, this guy won't make it in the rating scene if he's not subject to some sort of advice or some sort of improvement or some sort of desire to self-improve. He used to play Black Mage. He had no experience healing until he picked up Astro. Okay, that's a little bit fair. He's still new to the role. This is a rough one. If you have a friend who you've played with for months and months and months, and you've always played together, there's never been an issue. At level 60, though, they just cannot keep up. They need to seriously look at how they're playing the role. A good example, I'm on Astro. A tank can do a full pull. I'll throw on, what's the ability called? I can't remember. Synergy. Sinistry. I can't even remember what it's called right now. I'm still so tired. I'll throw on Sinistry. I'll give the tank 3 hots. I'll give him the AoE one, the single target one, and I'll give him Collective Unconscious. And yes, I call the Collective Unconscious, guys, not Collective Unconsciousness. Then I'll give him Time Dilation. I'll pop whatever it's called, Ethereal... Ethereal... I can't remember words right now. I'll pop my MP move. I'm so tired. I'll pop my MP move. And then I'll pop my AoE stun, and then I'll throw out 3 or 4 gravities before I ever need to heal the tank again. There's no reason why he can't do that as well. If he's spamming so hard, it almost sounds like he's healing in Cleric stance if he's running out of MP that hard, because it's that's something that's real. Astro has really good healing capabilities now in 4-man dungeons ever since all the buffs. Is he a Nocturnal? Tell him to go to Diurnal for 4-man dungeons, please. Please make sure he's in Diurnal for 4-man dungeons. It's so much easier than Nocturnal. But you gotta be upfront, man. You can't just keep hiding behind the fact that he needs to improve. That's the bottom line. Even if you need to take a video of another Astro healing you and be and take a video of him and put them side by side and look at what's going on, it's no matter what, there's gonna be some hard feelings here. It's just a matter of how you guys get past it. So best of luck with that. Hopefully you can find a solution. Also, any advice to a new ninja: make sure you have good internet. Unfortunately, that's the real thing. Make sure you have good internet, make sure you're keeping your dots up, make sure you don't lose Huton, and you should be good to go. Alright guys, I got a couple of questions left in me. Some of these took a really long time to answer, so apologies to that. And on top of that, I have a stream in 50 minutes, so I definitely got to get going. So I'm going to answer 2 more. Hey, App Source on here. First time asking, you can pick a bonus for yourself. I have 1 question, and I'll bold the main question for you. Okay. People usually look at tanks and healers, want a decent amount of DPS out of them in raid, but why don't people look at what DPS can do other than DPSing? A DPS doing things out of their role like what healers and tanks are doing at the moment. I know most DPS have raid utilities, but so do tanks and healers, and they still do their best at DPS. Probably because they're not outfitted to do multiple roles like that. Yes, sometimes a DPS has to do something special in order to ensure the fight can, work out okay. There are factors, but they aren't equipped to be able to fulfill 2 roles like the other roles are. So that's really where that issue lies. But that is probably why they need stricter See, that's the problem. If you make stricter DPS checks, then you need the tanks and the healers to DPS. If you make less strict DPS checks, then they're going to do that anyway, and now the DPS can slack off. Where is the middle ground? You need a middle ground where a DPS's damage is, it's just the DPS's damage is the sole reason for success. And that should sort of accentuate needing DPS that can fulfill their role properly and not just kind of get away with playing it subpar. So hopefully they add some mechanics along those lines, but that's up to them, not me, unfortunately. And the final question, hey there, Mr. Happy, newer watcher and first time asker, so here's 1,000 gil. Only 1,000 gil because I'm constantly broke. Sorry. Anywho, I just wanted to ask about Grand Companies. I started an alternative character and went through the choosing process, and it brought back memories of when I first played and how exciting and inspiring it was. Now I get the second lieutenant, and forget about it sucks. Anyway, my question is, do you think we will ever get promoted again or get new company gear? And what company did you choose first? I chose the Immortal Flames first because I started in Ul'dah, and I didn't know back in 1.0 that you couldn't, that you know, you had a choice. So let's just, anyway, moving on from that. Then when I moved over to 2.0, I was just like, you know what, fuck it, I started in Ul'dah, I'll be Immortal Flames again, because that's the city that I get around the easiest in. And I also had just terrible memories of the other two cities at that point. As for new ranks, they said they do want to do new ranks, but they want to make sure they're worth it. Because right now, even at level 50, the ranks were like not worth it at all, outside of access to like the hunt or something. So they want to make sure that the next time they promote it, there's meaningful content and reason to actually promote yourself in the Grand Companies. So hopefully they will do it in the future. Hopefully it'll be sometime soon. But anyway, thank you everyone for your questions. Sorry that some of them were a little bit long-winded, but now I have to get and edit this because it's definitely going to have to go live while I'm in the middle of my live stream. So anyway, thank you for watching. Be sure to ask your questions for next week in the thread that's in the description of the video. Sometimes people on YouTube ask where they can ask questions. The thread in the description of the video. It's on the Dream Network forums. So there you go. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next week. And until then, take care.